welcome to this super easy pullover tutorial. This printable pattern is available at our Etsy shop, and each pattern comes with the e-textbook and a YouTube tutorial, all at a super low price. The link is in the description box below. Okay, so let's get started. Here are the pattern pieces. You will have one back piece that is cut on the fold, and when you unfold it and open it, it will look like this. Okay, so just one back piece. Next, you will have a front piece. And this front piece is also cut on the fold. And when you open this piece, it will look like this. Next, you will have two side front pieces. One of them will go this way and be sewn to the front, and the other will go this way and be sewn to the other side of the front. And lastly, you will have two collar pieces. Both of these will be cut on the fold, and when you open it, it will look like this. And the same with this one. Okay, let's get started. First, we are going to work on the front of our pullover here, but first we are going to add an important notch. So for this, you will need a fabric marker or chalk or something like that. I will be using an ink pen just because it's really easy to see for the video. So for this, you will need to have your front pattern piece still folded in half, but at the neckline fold is where we will mark the notch. This is going to be very important for us later on. So at the neckline, just mark a really small notch. It could be like 1/4 of an inch or something like that. So this small notch will be very important later on when we go to sew the collar on, okay? So now, I'm gonna show you the side front pieces here that we're gonna be sewing to the front. There are some notches that are very important for us, okay? So you need a notch right here and a notch right here. And on the side seam, you will need a notch right here. So just make sure that you have those corresponding notches from your pattern. Okay? So now open up your front pattern piece with the right or correct side of the fabric facing up. Next, with right sides together, get your side front piece that corresponds, matching the notch here with the notch on this piece. And you have a notch right here and a notch right here on your front piece. So now just line everything up, nice and flat. And now you can pin it in place. Match the notches and pin. So now we are gonna sew this seam, and you can sew this seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance or a 5/8 seam allowance, whichever is easier for you. Because the pullover is slightly oversized, both seam allowances work. Okay, so you're gonna sew right along here, all right? So after you're done with that, you will take this side and do the same thing. Match the notches pin in place, and sew it. So now I will go to my sewing machine and sew this. When you are done sewing your front piece, it will look like this with the side front pieces sewn to each side. And I went ahead and ironed the seams open and flat. So now we will sew the front to the back. So I will show you what the back piece will look like. I did the same thing on this piece where I folded it in half and marked a really small notch at the center front neckline. So now with right or correct sides of the fabric together, lay the front piece on top of the back piece. And we will sew these together. Okay. Now let's start with the shoulder seam, or we could call it sleeve seam. So for this, we are going to be sewing from here all the way to here. And where this seam is on the front, you should have a corresponding notch on the back piece. Okay, so let's match it nicely and pin this in place. And again, you're going to sew all these seams with a 1/2 inch or 5/8 seam allowance, whatever you prefer. So now this is pinned and ready to be sewn. So just make sure you lay it nice and flat when you go to sew it. So now we will work on this side seam here. Okay, so you will have a notch right here on this side and one on the back as well. So one notch on the front and one notch on the back. And when you sew it, you're going to start at the notch and then stitch it all the way down to the hem. But from here to here, this is where your arm is going to go. So you're going to leave this portion open. So now you can pin the side seam together. Okay. So again, we will sew from here all the way to here. And then you will sew from here all the way down to the hem. And after you are done on this side, you will do the same thing on this side. Okay, so let's go sew it. So now we will begin to work on the arm opening hem. So remember that we sewed the top part, the shoulder seam, sleeve seam, and remember we sewed the side seam as well. And then we left this open. So I will show you what we will do with this. If you want, you can use a ruler like this, or you could use a pressing ruler. it might make it a little easier if you want to. But if you don't want to, you don't have to use a ruler. So what you are going to do is to fold this up, just like this, and all the way around the armhole. And we will pin that in place. Fold it up about 1/2 inch or so. And then you will pin this in place. So you will do this all the way around the armhole. So just continue, fold it up about 1/2 inch and pin in place. At this top seam here, you can open up this seam like that, and then from there fold it up and pin it. Okay, so after you are done pinning, it will look like this, okay? And when you go to sew it, you're gonna turn this right side out, and on your sewing machine, you're gonna sew just right inside the edge here, and do that all the way around. So from here, all the way around to here, where you started from. Okay, so now we will begin to work on the hem of our pullover. Your finished arm opening hem will look like this. And from the inside, it will look like this. Okay, so we're gonna do the exact same thing for the hem. So again, get your ruler and fold up the hem 1/2 inch and pin it in place. Okay, and you're gonna do this the whole circumference of the hem. Now this is how I'm finishing the hem, but you can leave it unfinished. You could finish it with the serger, whatever you like and whatever you prefer. Okay, so you're going to continue all the way around. And when you go on your sewing machine, you will stitch it the same way you did with the arm hem. Just stitch along the inside of this edge here.